if you think of a conference table and you're sitting at the head of the table, and then there's all other parts of you. And like I said, 12-year-old, 16-year-old, 15-year-old, 22-year-old, 25-year-old, 30-year-old, like all these different parts of yourself that are sitting there. Instead of you running that conference, all those other parts are running it. You're just reacting and you're losing it, because the capital S self, the person that you are right now that's listening to this podcast, that is regulated, that is in the self-development journey, that is doing all these kind of things, you can listen to things. But if you're not actually implementing them into your body, because trauma isn't something you study, trauma is something you feel. Patterns are something you study your way out of and write affirmations and script and do all the kind of things that we see in this woo-woo world. Like, trauma is healed in the body, which means you have to have a safe place to go for you to feel.
Do you want to wake up feeling like you're stepping into who you're meant to be, into the best possible version of you? What if I told you that the key to your best life, health, and happiness are all around you? You just have to find what works for you. I'm Hope Pedraza, and I believe that there isn't just one way to live a healthy and meaningful life, and that all you need is a little inspiration to make changes that last from the inside out. Each week, I'll be sharing tangible tips and inspirational interviews to help you on your journey. These are the steps to take to improve your life and live with purpose. This is Hopeful and Wholesome.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Hopeful and Wholesome. Today I have on the show Laura Patricia Martin, and Laura is a trauma and relationship specialist and founder of Happy to Healing. This global movement is taking the world by storm as it liberates the modern woman to really step into her relaxed feminine energy and allows the man to step into his leadership without the triggers of their past. She is here to change the way we date and communicate and connect in this modern world. And that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about relationships, trauma, relationships, confidence, all the things that go into healing and transforming, moving from toxic relationships to functional relationships, this kind of journey and evolution of growth as you go from relationship to relationship to find this person, this relationship that helps you thrive. And we're talking all about what that journey looks like and what the healing looks like, what it looks like to heal from the trauma of toxic relationships and even of physical and sexual damage that's been done. And really what it looks like to shift how we communicate in relationships and what it looks like to really embody our truest, most whole self in relationships. I love this conversation. Laura really is an expert. She has a lot of really great insight from her own experience and is really here to help us to be able to communicate and heal and really live and thrive in relationships. So let's jump in.
All right, y'all. I'm here with Laura, and we are talking all things relationship because she is a relationship and trauma specialist. And I know, like I was telling her before we hit record, we've talked about trauma in different capacities, but we haven't really dove into relationships. I'm excited about this conversation with Laura. So thanks so much for joining us today, Laura.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. So I feel like to kind of kick this conversation off, I usually save like my story thing for later on in the conversation, but I feel like, you've been through a lot of things that kind of led you to this place where the things that you're focused on in your business. So I guess can you give us an idea of kind of your story and your journey through relationships and how you got into this realm?
Yeah, I always say like I'm an accidental entrepreneur because it was never the vibe. Like I genuinely did not think, like I have notes in my phone from 2013 being like, I'm not going to make it to 25. Like I didn't think it's far in life because I didn't have, like, that wasn't the narrative that I lived within. I was definitely a statistic of in college, nasty sexual assault. And then my mom passed away from addiction when I was 22 years old. And we just never talked about the trauma in our family. Like it was just a thing where it was like, no, like, and I know a lot of people can relate to that. It's like, we just don't talk about it. We just don't talk about it. And so I ended up running away to Asia in Thailand, where I went on a journey to self-discover, but really all I found was repeating generational trauma. So I found my way into addictions and domestic violence and deep eating disorders and a whole bunch of chronic health issues. And I didn't see a way out, and I was 24 years old and I just had a physical altercation with my partner and I didn't want to live anymore. I was like, I can't do, like, what am I freaking doing?
Right.
And it was that moment, and maybe people can't relate to that part of the story, but there's this moment that happens where it's like, it's not that I want to die. I just cannot live this way anymore. Like I can't keep doing what I'm doing. And I don't know what else to do. This is how I've always been.
Right.
And so I talked to a friend the next day. My good friend, Emma, I was like, I am lost in this bubble because I was hiding it, right? Like that's what we do, the shame thing where I was like, I'm not telling anyone this is going on. Obviously, my friends can witness one, my body shrinking in size terribly. Like I'm 45 pounds underweight. They can see something's wrong. They see me dating this person. They see me with bruises. They see me, you know, in and out of hospitals and blaming it on car accidents. So like that's a lot of car accidents for 1 year. And she sat down and she's like, you know, you have a really disordered relationship with food. Why don't you go learn about it? And it wasn't necessarily healing my relationships at that point, but it started to give me a purpose. And so I went into health coaching and people just started seeing me. I used to be this heavy, like raver, selling drugs, like in these really, like this whole version of me. And then all of a sudden I'm like, you guys want some kale chips? And they're like, what the heck is going on? And like, they were enticed by it because people in that realm, like, you're running away from something.
Right.
And so like, can I drink your Kool-Aid? Can I pay you? And I'm like, yeah, obviously, you know, like, sure, like, why not? And it went down this rabbit hole. But the thing that was core about that was that, see, I didn't heal from that trauma. I just created a whole different identity.
Yeah.
And so I became obsessed with work. I became obsessed with strict rules and becoming this sober, perfect version that worked out all the time, eliminated 13 different food groups and had all these routines. And like, I glorified this thing, not realizing all of that was just a different type of codependency.
Right.
It was not just with my business
and
this identity. And it wasn't until the pandemic hit and I was home and I realized, like, what the heck is all this worth? Like the success, I'm on magazines, I'm speaking at conferences with hundreds of people. Like I'm away from my family. I'm in the third world country. I'm like, what am I really doing? And so it was just this hit that I had where I was like, you know, I really want to find love. Like I really want to do that. And I told my assistant, she's like, oh my God. And I literally closed down one of our offices because I had offices in Singapore and Thailand. I closed down one of our offices and I bought a one-way ticket. And 3 weeks later, I was on a flight home. And I started to get into this trauma work and this somatic work and this embodiment work because I realized I know so much. Like, and we all do that. We have Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, like telling us and diagnosing us. Like we have so much freaking knowledge. I didn't embody any of that. Like I couldn't feel anything in my body. And so I would numb myself with these drugs and these highs and these things to come alive in a little bit way, not realizing the core relationship that was missing was mine. And I was just repeating the generational trauma from my past. I was just doing exactly what my mother did at 22. I was just doing exactly what my grandparents did. And it was in this moment where I was like, shit, when I have a daughter, what am I going to tell her about this time in my life? Like, am I really going to repeat this? Or am I going to take radical ownership that I get to create my life? I don't have to respond to it. And so I started to do this trauma work and the somatic work. It ultimately led me to relationships because that's the foundation of everything. I never felt I was worthy because I didn't belong in school. I was always the outcast. I was bullied. I had all these things. I didn't belong in my family. Like it was this whole mess. And I was like, oh, like all of these wounds of insecurities and rejection and abandonment and self-worth, like they all came down to this. And can I actually heal that in my body, not just study inner child work and internal family systems and all the kind of things that I was doing? I was like, can I actually embody this and like become the version of self that I did not get? And you know, it was a radical pivot from gut health to what I was teaching to now this. But at the end of the day, it all makes sense because it's all a journey home to self and no longer repeating these things and being a reaction to life. It's more of just stepping in and owning the fact that we are always creating our lives. What is the story that we want to tell?
Yeah. What a powerful journey. There's so much to untangle there. I was writing a couple notes we were talking because I'm like, there's so much to unpack there. First of all, I mean, how much credit can you possibly give yourself for the, like you were saying, taking radical ownership? Like, I mean, the steps you took to like, because you could have ended it all. You could have said like, I'm done with this. Like I've been through all this crap and you've been through a lot. You could have made a lot of different choices in the choice that you made. So first of all, holy cow for that. And second of all, so when you're in because I like what you said. And I think sometimes, it was funny you said this because I was reading something on Instagram the other day from another coach that I follow. And she was saying something similar to what you're saying, where you got done with this kind of addiction part of your life, but then you dove into this other thing to kind of cover up things instead of dealing with things. And she made a similar post where she basically kind of the same thing. She was like into this period where she was partying and doing all this other stuff. And then she went into coaching and spirituality and all this spiritual healing. But it was just to kind of cover up things and not deal with things. And I think sometimes we don't recognize that piece. I mean, I know I've done that in my life. I mean, I've dealt with addiction, but I did have disordered eating behavior for a while and dealt with, other stuff. And I do find that you shut down the one part, but then you turn up this other part to cover up the others. Like, so I guess my question that is, you were talking about like not being able to embody, like, and I think that word embodiment can be a really esoteric thing for people. Like, what does that even mean? But that's what it is you're missing that embodiment piece. So can you kind of untangle that piece a little bit for us and what that means?
Yeah, so that's the trauma piece, right? So this is why we repeat cycles, we repeat patterns, we do the feast and the famine, we find ourselves in perfectionist, because perfectionism is really just masking shame and rejection and abandonment. We think if we can just outrun it, and then all of a sudden we're in these intimate relationships, and you're like, what if they really find out I'm not perfect? And then we self-sabotage.
Totally.
And the reason that is because we haven't actually become the living proof of our work, because we've been in these spaces where it's like, I can riff off, and I did this. I can riff off everything about the inner child work, the nervous system, polyvagal theory, neuroinflammation. I can talk to you about it. But if you looked at my life, I didn't date anyone for 2 years, because anytime anyone got close to me, I was like, get the heck out of my face. You're going to find out I'm not perfect, and you're going to find out I'm flawed, and you're going to find out I'm jealous and angry and have these parts of myself, because the truth is I haven't actually recognized those parts of myself yet. Because I didn't actually, like, what we do is I looked at the wrong version of myself when I was looking at past version me, 22-year-old me, 19-year-old me, 16-year-old me, 12-year-old me. It was, she's a freaking idiot, and we're just going to create something new. Therefore, I'm always trying to outrun that version of myself. Meaning, if you think, one of my mentors explained this, and I freaking love it this way. If you think of a conference table, and you're sitting at the head of the table, and then there's all other parts of you. And like I said, 12-year-old, 16-year-old, 15-year-old, 22-year-old, 25-year-old, 30-year-old, like all these different parts of yourself that are sitting there. Instead of you running that conference, all those other parts are running it. You're just reacting, and you're losing it, because the capital S self, the person that you are right now that's listening to this podcast, that is regulated, that is in the self-development journey, that is doing all these kind of things, you can listen to things. But if you're not actually implementing them into your body, because trauma isn't something you study, trauma is something you feel. Patterns are something you study your way out of and write affirmations and, script and do all the kind of things that we see in this woo-woo world. Like, trauma is healed in the body, which means you have to have a safe place to go for you to feel that rejection, to feel that shadow, to come to peace with it. It's not actually that scary. But if you have trauma in your body that you've been avoiding, because we don't want to feel shame, we don't want to feel guilt, we don't want to feel abandoned, we don't want to feel these things. So we try and build up this stuff that is going to be running your life the whole time. And so embodiment is such a overused, let's be honest.
Yeah, right.
It's one of these things, especially in the woo-woo world. And it's like, not woo-woo, like I am woo-woo now, but like, I remember when I was at that point where I was like, you want me to do what with my womb? Like, what? Like, I'm not there. Like, now I'm like, I remember I was in my mastermind one time and I had this question about something, and they're like, ask your womb. And I was like, what?
What the heck does that even mean? Yes.
Ovaries know what to do. Like, I mean, maybe what you're asking is, what is my body responding to right now? Oftentimes we're trying to think our way out of everything, as opposed to feeling where in my body. And like, this is what I teach inside of, my mentorship or my programs. It's like, where are you actually at in your nervous system? What does that feel like in your body? And so that when you can feel that in your body, you can change the pattern that's coming up. Like, it's actual science. It's not a thing of like, let me just pray and sit. It's like, it's actually you're controlling your body, as opposed to your body's narratives and traumas and situations and protective mechanisms running your life. So you actually get to start to implement these things. But a lot of times, especially for high achieving women, we want to think our way out of everything. Like, feeling your body. It's like, I don't know what that means. And and this was my thing where it was like, and I'm sure you can relate to this, is like, last time I got in my body, I can't trust her. Like, she got me into trouble. She did this. I tried to manipulate. Therefore, I'm going to form this eating disorder. I'm going to control these things. I'm going to control that because she worked against me. It's like, no, you tried to outsmart her. Right. That's how that worked. And so how can we actually get back into this mind-body connection so that they can work together? And that's somatics. That's with the body.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the piece, is the mind and the body working together. And I think that's the piece because, I mean, like you said, we're used to thinking our way out of things. And I think we try to, like, I'm just going to use the analytical brain because that's gotten me this far and I don't want to have to feel it in my body. So for somebody who is listening, because this is the other piece, and I have found, and, I feel like I'm somebody, my background is in dance and I've always been a mover. So I feel like I've always been like in tune with my body to a certain extent. And I feel like I meet people who have like no connection with their body whatsoever. And talking about this stuff is such a foreign concept where they're like, where am I, like you were saying with the womb thing, like, where am I supposed to feel that? Like, I don't know. So I guess, do you have any sort of like strategies or shifts people can kind of follow to, like, when you're talking about like feeling it and feeling your way through your trauma, because it is a feeling you have to get out of your head and into your body. Like, what are some like tangible things people can do to tune in? Like, how do I feel what you're talking about?
Yeah. Is it okay if I kind of go through a practice right now?
Totally.
Yeah. So my boyfriend is the same way. My best friend is the same way, which is freaking hilarious because those are the closest people in my life. And they're like, what is that? Like, it's just like a funny thing. If you go through the practice right now, it's like if you close down your eyes and you feel into a place in the world where wherever it is, it's like your safe place. It could be at your home. It could be on a beach. It could be in the mountains. It could be with your partner curled up in bed, like wherever that is. When you're in that moment, I'm sure you can feel somewhere in your body where it's just relaxed. A lot of women that I work with, it's in their heart or it's in their head. And they can feel if you gave it like a texture, if you gave it a color, like where is that in your body? That's when you're grounded, right? And then we can move to another part of our nervous system where I like to call it my spicy Latina. My best friend because she's Puerto Rican and it's funny. But if I start talking like this and I talk about a stressful event and I start talking really quick and I start doing these things, you can probably feel it in your body and you're really hyped and you're kind of all these things. Or if I tell you to think about a heartbreak and I tell you to think about the time that your heart got broken and all the kind of things, it's this like fiery, tense, anxious energy, even in the way that I speak. And so if you're sitting in that kind of moment and you think of a time when you were anxious. And I walk my clients through this practice where it's like, think of a presentation you had to give. Think of a conversation you really didn't want to freaking have. Like just those kind of moments, or like before you go on a date, like it doesn't even have to be anything extreme, but those moments of tension. And think of the color that you would give it. Think of where in your body do you feel it? You know, I often feel it's like in my solar plexus, like it's just like tense. It's like where I feel anxiety. It's like, I describe it as like, I feel like dinosaur claws or just like gripping right there. And then there's another part of our nervous system that I call the Eeyore stage. It's our dorsal stage. And so if you can think of a time when you were depressed and like really feel it, like shame, disappointment, heartbreak, grief, loss, that just like deep shutdown. You don't really freaking care. You don't want to wake up. You don't really want to eat. Like it's just, who the frick cares? That's your dorsal. And if you give that a color and you feel it, I often feel that one like in my stomach. Like it just feels heavy. And so these are practices where once you get to know these, like I play this game, I enter a room, I enter intimacy with my partner, I enter a conversation with my best friend, like these kind of things, gauging where you're at in your nervous system. That's the beginning stages of embodiment, because now you're aware of your body. You're not doing anything, fixing anything, nothing is wrong, but you're now aware of it. Oh, I actually walk, like I remember doing these practices. I'm like, shit, like I actually walk around most of the time in my sympathetic.
Right.
That is my comfort zone. Like my boyfriend describes me as a puppy, like, because sympathetic doesn't have to mean bad, like angry. It can also mean very freaking excited. Like that is me. I am a child at heart. Like I'm like, like very excited all the time, but I'm also aware of people around me and I need to regulate myself, especially on interviews, so I don't dysregulate other people's nervous system, which is really hard for me because I get excited about stuff.
I do the same thing.
Right? But it's like, okay, like, and then you can kind of match people's energy when you're in there. And it's like, okay, now I'm in control of my nervous system. What type of response do I want to get from people? What type of energy do I want to match? And so these are simple embodiment practices of just being aware. Now you know the 3 stages of your nervous system, one that's connected and, you know, intimate, and that's where your ventral is, and whatever color you get that, wherever you feel in your body, you can feel that. Where, when I enter a room, what am I feeling right now? Like, where in my body am I feeling that? Oh, cool, that's interesting. Before you fix it, it's just interesting. And then build out the practices, whatever that is for you, to get into the regulated state, or to get into the state that you want the universe to match you with, or the people to match you with, and you can start to play with it that way. But a lot of times we're like, empathetic spat, and it's like very cerebral,
right?
As opposed to, can you just feel? Like think of a feeling that you don't want to feel that in your body for a second. That's
right. No, that's huge. And I think that's the piece, is a lot of times we go into it with judgment, and then we're like, well, turn it off. Like, just turn it off. It's like you feel it, and then you're like, wait, no, that's dumb. It's, you know, it's being able to go in with it without judgment. Do you know who Victoria Song is by chance? There's this great book. You might want to, I totally recommend it. Anybody listening, I totally recommend it. It's called, I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's Victoria Song has the book. But she talks about this first part. Oh, it's called something reality. Anyway, she talks about expansion versus contraction. And basically kind of similar to what you were just saying there, because she's saying, you know, she works with these big CEOs and these big corporate bigwig people. And like you're saying, they go through their life very cerebral, very analytical, and they're not used to feeling things. And so she kind of goes through a similar thing, talking about how expansion feels and how contraction feels. And I think that's like what you just walked through is the perfect exercise to feel that, because we all know we feel things. It's just, I think our awareness just kind of doesn't stick around long enough for us to recognize like what that means. So I think the expansion contraction thing, or like you were saying, kind of walking through those 3 stages is like the perfect starting point to actually feel things in the body. So I think that's perfect exercise.
And that's the thing where it's like, we often don't want to feel these things. We only want to feel mental. We only want to feel good. Whole toxic positivity movement. And I feel like some forms of meditation are that, like, leave the body. I'm like, get
stay in the body.
What are you feeling in your body right now? Like, what emotion, especially as females, we go through more emotions in a day than, like, my boyfriend says this joke all the time. He's like, you go through more emotions in a day than I have my entire life. Like, I'm like, try living in my body.
Right.
I'm aware of it. Like, I know, but it's like, meditation is that time to then become aware of these emotions, not fear them, just witness them without judgment, because there is no bad emotion. There's that's a narrative, that's a society, that's because sometimes bad people do bad things in certain states. But that's the narrative. It doesn't mean that emotion is bad once we can actually use, you know, the trauma tools and the regulation tools. You know, a thing I teach in one of my signature programs, Sacred Singlehood, is like emotional honesty and sacred rage. Like, there is nothing bad when you get to actually hold these emotions in your body without fear, and then you don't have to fix it. It's just this part where you're like, oh yeah, I'm feeling like isolated my partner. I'm like, I'm having a burrito day, which is when I'm in my dorsal and I just wrap myself up and I watch a movie and I'm like, give me ice cream. Like, that is it. Nothing is bad. I'm not failing at life. It's just, I know if I shove that down, I'll either go back to having, you know, gut issues. I'll go back to having hormonal issues. Like, you know, there's more than just, oh, she's off her rocker and she's all this emotion and screaming and all this stuff. It's like, no, actually, if you're suppressing that in your body, there's a really good book called Body Keeps Score. If you're suppressing it in your body, you're going to get sick. Like, and your emotions and your relationships and all the things that you think are benefiting from you being happy, you're not helping anyone in that. You're just being fake. And then we get to the point of explosion. And then we kind of, that's why we're so afraid of our emotions, right? Because we get to the point that it's like, oh, I've been suppressing it for so long and now I'm going to blow up. And that's why if you actually understand your body, where it's like, oh, there's that twinge of shame or jealousy or anger or whatever, and you have healthy ways of transmuting that, you never blow up. Like it doesn't happen. And then that's how you start to build this conversation between your mind and your body and connecting these parts of yourself in a way that actually feels practical, as opposed to like, I need to run away to Bali for like 3 weeks and go find myself. You don't have to do that. You can literally just listen to things like this and just become more aware of like, what am I feeling? Cool. Can I just feel that for a second without making it wrong? And then sometimes, you know, it's not the perfect opportunity to go cry or yell or whatever, but like, come back to it. Like, I know sometimes we're at work and we're feeling things like we can't, like they're, you know, it's not the right setting. But making sure that there is a space somewhere in your day. My favorite thing is like, I call it transition time, like from work to actually being a partner and being in my feminine and doing the things like, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to do whatever I have to do. I'm going to dance. I'm going to scream in my car. Like, I don't know what emotion I need to get out of my body, but we go through a lot in a day. So where are you taking like 10 minutes to truly feel these things? Show up in the fullest version of yourself and watch. I swear to God, like, watch as your relationships, your life, everything moves from there.
And I love that. I'm going to refer to the book one more time, because she talks about something in there, what you were just saying about when you blow up. And she was talking about all these different repressed emotions, and what they show, like repressed shame and repressed fear, typically turns into rage or anger. Like it's like people, and she talks about men, especially, not to harp on men or anything, but it's men, especially when they're showing rage or anger, a lot of times it's suppressed fear that they haven't allowed themselves to actually feel. And then, like you're saying, it just kind of gets bottled up, and then it's like a volcano explosion with all this pressure built up. So it's okay. So I do want to, you were talking about relationships just a second ago. So I want to look into that, because so you were saying that this is like relationships are where we said what you said earlier. You said relationships is where we what? What did you say?
It's the most intimate thing. Is where like we can't hide from our shadows.
Yeah. That's what you're saying. So I want to look at that, because I find that because I have a similar things that we were talking kind of your story and where you realized that the relationship with yourself was the piece that you were missing. Because I feel like I've kind of had the same realization sometime over the past few years. It was probably stemmed from COVID. Like COVID like triggered so many things in all of us, right? And I feel like that was kind of the piece that I had to connect with, was this relationship with myself. But when we're talking about relationships with other people, I find that we feel like we're doing all the work, like we feel like we're doing all the healing and the personal development work, but then we still can't get the like functional relationship that we're looking for. Like, what is your experience with that and working with, even with, clients or whatever, working through that? Are there any like kind of things to peel back layers on that, on why that pattern continues to happen?
Yeah. So my core belief is there is no shortage of dates out there. Literally go on your phone and get someone from across the world.
It's so true.
It's endless. The problem is staying power and intimacy, because we built up these identities and these personas. And me and my partner were talking about this when we first got together, actually, was like our biggest mission in dating before we were anything. But what we were looking for is like, I don't want to have to fake anything to you. Like I want all of me and you decide if you want to stay or not.
Right.
Like that's how we're going to go about this. And he modeled that a lot better than I did at first. But it's one of these kind of things where it's like, if you know yourself fully, there's no longer masks. And so, the patterns are repeating itself because they haven't been healed. And so you're going to have, it doesn't matter about your partner. Like we often think it's like, it's the men in my town. It's
right.
the that are screwing everyone. It's this, it's that, it's social media, whatever it is. It's like, no, it's the fact that we are attracting the same, like for me, I'll speak in I terms. My previous relationship ended a year ago and I thought I was going to marry him. It was like, I spent 2 years healing my shit after domestic violence. And I was like, this is going to be the one. Obviously, this is the one. I've done my stuff.
Right.
Duh.
Yeah.
Wrong. So I'm all in it. I'm pedestaling this relationship. I'm like, it has to work. Although there are plenty of signs that it wasn't ultimately until he cheated. And then I was like, no, this has to be it. And so we stayed, we did couple counseling, we did the whole thing because my staying power is like, I will figure out. His was, he's not there yet.
Right.
And so in that moment, it was looking at, we broke up. And obviously, and so instead of me going, what's wrong with me? Dating sucks, America, like all the things that we could have done, I went, what in me attracted that again? Because every partner I've ever had has cheated on me. So what is that? And so I started to do work on myself, not just studying it and going like, it's my parents and the unavailability and my attachments and all the stuff that we see on Instagram. I was like, there is actually something in me that is attracting this. So I did what I teach in Sacred Singlehood. I like went into my singleness and I was like, I'm not rushing this process. Like I am going to heal my trauma. I'm going to heal my patterns. I'm going to heal where I feel like I'm not worthy and I'm not lovable and that I'm too difficult and that I'm too emotional and I'm too much and I'm not enough. And all the narratives I had. And I really spent 2 months basically just traveling and being alone and, finding my joy and re-entering this force and like really self-discovering these moments. And 4 months later, I met my man. Like I couldn't even envision this in my life. Like he wasn't even in my vision board because I couldn't have envisioned something like him because it wasn't in my, like, I didn't think I was worthy of something like that. Right. I knew I wanted to become someone. I knew I wanted to become the one. And it wasn't anymore about finding that person. It was about rediscovering who I am without the triggers of the trauma of the generational stuff that had been passed down. It was like, who am I really at my core? Who is Laura Patricia Martin? And so when we're looking at relationships, it really is this, if a pattern is repeating itself, that's a you. You're the most common denominator in every relationship you've ever had. Right. That is you. And so what do you want to do about it? And that doesn't mean shame on you. You're at fault. Like I'm not at fault for my ex-boyfriend doing the things that he did. I'm not at fault for violence. I'm not at fault for my mother. Like I'm not at fault for that. I am responsible that I didn't do anything about it. I'm responsible that I just kept playing the narrative. I'm responsible that I played victim and blaming and all the kind of things and grew angry instead of sitting there and going, oh, my human's sad and pissed. And I'm going to let her have that. And now what? Now what do I want to do? Like, how is it? What's the story I want to tell? And so moving into that, it's like, when you actually know yourself at that level, you're going to like doing the self-development work in another part of this. Everything you do on your own, you have to do in relationship again, especially with the deep ones. Like my boyfriend, any trigger, like any self-righteousness I had, he was like, no, go clean that up. No, like he would not tolerate it. Not in a way that he's like, I'm breaking up with you, but he's like, there is something you're trying to project right now.
Right.
And I can't fully fall into this until you do that. And I was like, I mean, you're not wrong. Like, I'm like, you're not wrong. Like, okay, let me go do something about that. And I went and I did more trauma work and brain spotting and things, my own work, but getting outside sources to help because, we can't perform surgery on our own brains. And so doing these kind of things, because what I see is this intimacy issue where it's like, oh, we're seeking red flags. Oh, he doesn't fit this. Oh, he doesn't fit that. Oh, they don't fit this. Oh, they make me feel like this. And it's like, it's never going to be perfect. Like, it's just not. And looking for perfection is ludicrous. It's just something that you can commit to the path with that person.
Right.
The staying power in that.
Right.
That's where that comes from, where it's like, do you know yourself to stay? Do you know that you're going to get triggered? And do you have the resources outside of the relationship? Because your partner is not your therapist.
Right.
Getting the resources, getting in the communities, getting the mentor, getting the therapist, doing the things you have to do so that when you are triggered, because you will, the deepest, healthiest forms of love are the most triggering. They make you want to run because you can't run. Like you can't hide it. The ones that are toxic, they keep you in this cycle of chaos that keeps you from true intimacy. And we confuse that with passion.
Right.
And so looking at these things and you're like, I've done the self-development. I'm in these groups. I'm listening to these things. I'm like, that's fantastic. Like, I love that for you, but now you have to go apply it and apply it and apply it and apply it. Like, and it's how you communicate it, right? Like, it's not that in a relationship, you're never going to have conflict. It's what are your conflict resolution skills there? How do you come back and admit, like, for me, I have big T trauma. My partner does not. So getting close in our relationship, I would be activated. I would just respond in a way. And then literally I'd like sit and I'd be like, whoa, PTSD, cool. Like, see that you were there. Like, and it wasn't a thing because it was a me thing.
Right.
And God bless his cotton socks for like the staying power he had, because he wasn't like, fuck this, I'm out. Like all the kind of, it was genuinely, he's like, this isn't mine. And I was like, you're right, it's not. And it's your way, how you communicate it. And that was a big thing for us, where he was like, it's always how you come back. Like, it's never like, I don't expect you to be perfect. I don't expect you to have insecurities or codependency or the things, like, look at all the things that you've walked yourself through. Of course, I don't understand this fully, but how you always bounce back is the truth of that. And that's because I spent this time getting to know myself. I spent the time being like, I am responsible for every time this happens. I'm responsible for, it hasn't pivoted yet. And the only way to heal these triggers, there's no shame around it. And I say this to my clients and, even my little sister, it's like, triggers don't just happen one time, you notice it and it goes away. It is the repetition of it.
Right.
It happens again and again and again. And then magically it's not there anymore. But it could, again, it goes a lot faster when you do the somatic practices. But I think that's what we shy away from, where it's like, oh, I had one thing and therefore I'm embarrassed and I'm going to run away and I'm never going to have it again. So we put more walls up again and again, where it's like, if you're feeling and you're seeing these patterns repeat itself in relationships, it's a check engine light for you.
Right. For sure. Well, and I think it goes back to what you said just a second ago about getting to know yourself first. And I know for me, I got a divorce, like, I don't know, I guess by now it's like 12 years ago, 10, 11, 12 years. And I feel like I was just like writing some content about this because, of course you don't recognize it at the time, but realizing that I was never completely myself in that relationship. And I had no idea how much I was holding back. I was trying to hold up this picture of, I'm from the South, I'm from like the Bible Belt, and you fit the perfect wife. And, you go to school and you get married and you have kids and you do the, that you follow the path, and I live the perfect Christian wife or whatever. And realizing that I was holding myself back from so many things and not really being myself. And I think that piece somewhere along, my decade of healing myself, and I was single for a little while after that. But I also think with my husband now, I think we've both kind of been on a journey together. I think, like you said earlier too, it's like you choose someone who you want to go on the journey with. And I think that's kind of the sign of like, whether or not you believe in soulmate or whatever, but I think that's the sign of like a match, right? You're both on a journey and you both agree to go on the journey together and you can lift each other up and all that. But I think the big piece for me was that piece of like, I never really knew myself, and I had no idea that I never really knew myself. And so I think the end of that relationship was like the permission that I needed to like, hey, now you can go learn, like meet yourself, like, and go learn yourself. And that was, that was it. And that was, there's so many pieces that came together after that. And looking back at the relationship and the things that were dysfunction, there was, infidelity in that relationship as well, like your last relationship. And again, and I've, healed the things, and there's no ill feelings and all that, but understanding that like the opportunities that are presented for you to learn more about yourself and to meet yourself and to like build that relationship first, because you're right. That's where it starts. And there's no way, I think back now too, if we would have like, and we didn't have, thank God we didn't have kids together, but thinking about like having kid, like there's no way I would have been like the mom that I am now back then, knowing like, didn't know myself at all. And so, yeah, I just, all that to say, I just completely agree with you on that piece that I feel like that's the strongest foundation for a relationship is just knowing yourself and knowing yourself at that deep, like soul level, and then taking that into a relationship.
And it's literally, I just posted a reel about that, where it's like, if you're going through a breakup or some type of relationship rupture, congrats. Like, this is your time. Like,
yes.
Knowing yourself, like your check engine light is on. Like, you get this opportunity to be selfish as heck. Like, you get to show up for yourself. You get to do these things. Like, I get it. We're like this anxious thing where like, I want to focus on being chosen. Like, I just want to be freaking chosen. I want all of me. And you have to do that for you. And it's not just like, again, mirroring practices and nervous system and attachment. Like, I had to borrow the way other people saw me because I didn't have that. Like, my life, like, of course I didn't. I wasn't modeled this. So I had to mirror from my friendships. And then I have to practice like mirroring healthy attachment and masculine energy from like my boyfriend. And like, I have to borrow it. And I do this with my mentor often where I'm like, can I borrow the way that you see me for a second? Because my brain is playing tricks on me. Powerful thing that is to surround yourself in people that you can do that. But like in a breakup or in a rupture or something that's happening, it's like, what a gift. And like, you just switch it on its head in that moment. See, like, it doesn't have to be this horrible thing. Of course, you're going to have the human experience, but like after that, it's really stepping into this moment of like, what story am I writing and how can I show this? Because ultimately, you're going to meet someone, right? If you're doing the work and you're showing up and you're going to meet someone. What is your staying power in that? Because you intimately know yourself. Like, there is no shadow that is left unturned. And even if there is, you know that you got your back. That's true confidence to me. It's like, it's not that everything is perfect. Like, the confidence I have and the confidence my clients have isn't because their lives are perfect. It's because they trust their intuition. They're connected to their body to take big leaps, to do the things, to, go try these crazy things and fall in their heart time and time again. But the biggest thing about that is the confidence comes because they know even if it doesn't work out, they'll be okay.
Yep.
That's how you can truly love someone and be in partnership, because if you don't have that, you have codependency, you have masking, you have self-abandonment because we want to be the good girl, because we want to be chosen, we want to be liked, because we want to people please. And it's like, it's not to say that relationships don't have compromise. Of course they do. Like, it's this cute little dance that we do, but it's not from a self-abandonment place of shutting down of self. And
exactly.
I think that is the gift that we get when we're in our single years and we have this moment of like, who am I really? And it's not that you have to be single. Like, you can do this in relationship too, of like, who do you want to know about yourself? Like, what do you want to know? And can you take time daily to be a little bit selfish and to use this time as like, this is a sacred moment. This is something I get to step into. Like, who are you really without the lens of your past getting in the way? Like, it always comes back to that. And that's truly the only way I see that happening is outside of the relationship, right? Like, not that you have to break up with anyone or do anything, but it's like outside of the relationship, who are.
Right. Totally agree. I have a couple more questions I want to ask you. If you could sum up, somebody's kind of on this path that we're talking about, and if you could sum up like the one thing to do now to like put yourself on this path and to put yourself on, not like you're going to heal it all with this one thing, but like this is the first step you take to put yourself on this path. What would that first step be?
Shameless plug, Sacred Singlehood.
Do it.
Literally, that's the program. That's what I created that for. But it's taking radical ownership. You're the common denominator in every single relationship that you have had in your entire life. What are you doing about it?
Yeah, I love it. And of course, I'll put links to what Laura's talking about in the show notes. So we can give her this shameless plug in the show notes. So y'all can go check it out. Okay, I do have one more question that I want to ask you that I like to ask everyone. But speaking of links, where can people find out more about you? You have a podcast, you have programs, you have all of these things to help support people with trauma and relationships. So tell us all the things.
Yeah, just come hang out over on Instagram and you'll see everything there. It's Laura Patricia Martin. So ITS Laura Patricia Martin. And you'll see our podcasts, our courses, our content, all the kind of things that we have going on.
Perfect. And I will put links to that as well in the show notes. So the last question I want to ask you is, what do you think is the most important thing you can do to live with purpose?
That goes back to what I just said earlier. It's taking ownership over your life. Like, you are the creator of your life. That's it. What do you want the narrative to go? You're going to be 97 one day. It's going to be your final days. What do you want to do when you look back? Like, what is the story you want to tell about that life that you lived? Start writing it.
Yeah, I love it. This is so awesome, Laura. Thank you for this conversation. I loved I feel like I could chat for hours about this. So I love this conversation with you. And I appreciate your insight and your honesty and your vulnerability and sharing out your story and all the things. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for listening to Hopeful and Wholesome, y'all. If you found value in this week's episode, please subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts and leave a review to let me know what you thought. I love to know what you find useful in these episodes so I know how I can provide the most value I can to my listeners. And if you have topics that you want to know more about, I'd love to hear those as well. So shoot me a message on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. It's @TheHopePedraza, or visit my website, hopefulandwholesome.com. Thanks, y'all.